Good morning. So grateful to be here. My name is Paige Cogger, and this gratitude for this opportunity to share the morning with you. Before we sit together, I wanted to, at Robert's request, to read a letter he asked me to read. Louder? Louder, okay. I know I have a tendency to speak softly. Thanks, Jim. Thank you for letting me know. Yeah. How's that? Better? Great. Thanks, Jim. So Robert asked me to read a letter he wrote to all of you. So I thought it'd be nice to receive that before we sit together. So I'll read that now. Dear Dharma friends, it is Saturday evening. I'm writing this note to you and hoping that my energy holds out long enough to complete it today. I began yesterday and ran into a fatigue wall that had me just close my computer and head for the couch. These symptoms are in keeping with the predictions of the neurosurgeon of extreme fatigue. It may well lighten in a month when I get to stop taking the powerful anti-seizure meds. The day before yesterday, 50 staples were removed from my scalp. I get emotional because the love, for this being. That has been a pleasant relief. Very Robert, huh? Yeah. So, the surgery itself took about 5 hours and took place a week ago last Monday. Excuse me. The recovery has been very grueling. I was very sick during the first 24 hours post-app, as I had a very bad reaction to the first anti-seizure medicine. I was in the neuro ICU. Blessedly, my wife Jennifer and daughter Tara were by my side, advocating for me. I relied upon them heavily, as I did on all the kind wishes, thoughts, and prayers coming from our community. Thank you for that. I lost almost all mindfulness and concentration, and this mind fell into obsessions and a lot of anxiety, fear, and confusion. I practiced by reciting the refugees again and again and invoking the loving kindness of Kuan Yin. At one point, it was oddly comforting to remember the story of Ajahn Chah. Near the end of his life, he had some kind of major medical event that left him for some years unable to communicate easily. He was cared for 24 hours a day by his monks. At one point, he's reported to have said, "If you think that all my years of practice make this easy, think again." It was good to be reassured by this, that I was not somehow failing. Ajahn Chah is pretty rarefied company. The first week is kind of a blur. It was a challenging time, caught between pain medications that seemed to create nausea and anti-nausea meds that seemed to make my pain worse. Each day I've been more awake and have made great efforts to walk a little further. Until yesterday, I used a walker all the time. But I woke up with much better balance and coordination yesterday. I walked all the way to the park near my home and back in the sunshine. Such freedom. Of course, I have been having deep reflections upon sickness, old age, and death. I have really felt like a sick old man on walks up the street with my walker. Walking alone again is quite a blessed experience. I'm still resting most of the time with lots of naps a day. I can never predict when my energy for wakefulness will just drop off a cliff, leaving me wiped. I want to thank those who have brought food and left us to find it magically at our front door. This has been a great gift to me and also to Jennifer, who's been putting so much time and energy into caring for me. I am still and must remain for some time very reclusive. Interpersonal contact wipes me out quickly. Thank you, my dear Dharma friends. I look forward to being among you again. With lots of love, Robert. Let's sit for a little while. offer the reminder, one which I'm confident Robert has extended to you, which came before is gone. And in truth, we do not know what will come next. And when we are caught in memories of the past or thoughts about what we think may come next, we're lost in illusion. Such a common human tendency, so we come together to see about being here now and the nourishment that comes with that. It's been said quite wisely that fulfillment is always, which is very hopeful, and only, which is quite wise. Fulfillment is always and only available right now. That it is a medicine. And somewhat curiously, we often resist it. It's been said we're often afraid of what we want most. We can stay in habits that don't serve simply because it's familiar. Some dysfunctional comfort there. It's a habit. So when we come together for this formal practice, we have an opportunity to let go of a habit that isn't serving and establish one that does. And this tendency to rest fully here, to meet whatever is arising with kind and loving awareness. This too can become more habitual. We strengthen this habit. And I can't do it for you, and you can't do it for me, but we certainly support one another in showing up. So good to take advantage of this time together. I often say it's the simplest thing in the world, and yet at times it can feel really hard. So we come together as these warriors, this fierce commitment to be that soft and open, allowing. And if you're anything like me, you'll stray. But then there's that moment, the miraculous moment of mindfulness emerging. You notice, oh, lost in thought, remembering, planning. So this is an important moment to extend loving kindness. It's, oh, good, I noticed. And you can come on back to the more immediacy of the moment, the feel of your body, the breath. And we can practice doing that kindly, as opposed to noticing and meeting that with some level of aggression. So as we sit together, we have this chance to strengthen the qualities of mindfulness, equanimity, and very importantly, compassion, loving kindness, patience. So let us not miss this opportunity, giving ourselves fully to this practice. And we'll sit together a little more now. might just gently take a few moments to notice the quality with which you're being here with yourself. The quality and tone of the efforting. Has the level of effort crossed into something that's becoming rigid? Maybe there's room to soften a bit. Has the ease dropped into something that's more like a zoning out? Perhaps tightening a bit. And we just adjust accordingly to find a place of relaxed attention, calmly alert, middle way. I'm sure many of you in this room have heard the teaching from the Buddha when he at times would refer to or use the example of tuning a stringed instrument. Too tight and the strings break. Too loose and you can't play. So we bring this upaya, skillful means, adjusting accordingly, all in support of you being here with this relaxed attention, kindly meeting whatever arises with loving attention, not pushing away, but also not clinging to. We can gently notice it come and go. And with that, there's a lot more spaciousness and freedom. And we have the gentle touchstone of the sitting bones, the breath, supporting you in this place of greater equanimity. Perhaps some of you would like to move into a more intentional metta, loving kindness meditation practice at this point, if that resonates and is familiar. May each being in this room be free from inner and outer harm. May each being in this room be genuinely happy. May each being in this room be healthy. And may each being in this room live her or his life with great and deep ease. And may it be so for all beings everywhere, without exception, because only good would come from this. Some of you heard me say this yesterday, but I feel called to say it again. Which sometimes when we offer this blessing to all beings everywhere, the question arises, how is this possible given the state of the world? And there have been many interesting answers to that question, but the one I seem to like best is this. Perhaps it isn't, but we go ahead and wish for it anyhow. Why wouldn't we? So may it be so. May it be so. Well, thank you for sharing in your morning practice. Now we have the gift of Jim. Yeah, it's time for that. Thank you. Shall I move anything, or I can help you? Let me know. Okay.
So I have a little bit different sound box than Paige. Is this too loud? All right. This is a new contraption for us, so I'm not sure how to set it up. So we'll get in touch with our feet, in touch with the floor, rock a little bit, come up on your toes, feel the strength in your lower legs, in your ankles and instep. Feel the toes digging into the rug. And then we'll open our hands and open our stance a little bit. Breathe in and open your chest. Breathe out, relax in. Feel the vitality and the awakeness in the body when there's freedom to fill the whole balloon of the lungs. And settle the arms down. Feel the effects of that deep breathing. And Robert always encourages us to experiment with this permanence and impermanence experiment, but it's built right into Qigong. So let's sink and begin. And there's our first ending. The gesture ends and we sink again. So there's beginnings and endings at every moment of the Shibashi routine. Constantly beginning, pausing a tiny bit and starting another gesture down that ends, noticing the beginnings and the endings. And then the journey between. The exhale begins and fades away. Where does it go? Beginning again. Exhale fades and fades and fades. Then we'll lift and open and come back to the center and sink. So it's a little different gesture with a long journey out to the edges and then back down, fading away. Then lifting overhead, change the mood, paint a rainbow. On a dreary day, it's always fun to paint the rainbows. And release that gesture. We sink, start a new one, up the center, out to the side, releasing, fading, beginning again, breathing in, and fading away. Staying with the gesture through the journey. And then a little more complexity. Open to the side, press with the back hand, pull in with the front hand, twist the wrists, change the positions of the hands, feel the hips, sink a little bit deeper into the knees, feel the sense of agency in the legs. There's lots happening in this gesture. We call it push and pull, but there's all these micro movements. Turning, effortless, effort forward. And then a simpler one. Dropping, circling around as long as you're in your healthy range of movement. Fading away with the breath. Impermanence is flashing in front of us every moment. Reaching across. Letting the heel rise, ending, lifting, ending. Turning to gaze at the moon, we begin a new gesture that fades away. Pressing across and fading away. Hearing. Sounds arise and fade away. And then my favorite, wiping the heartache out. Just focus on the upper hand. See the palm in front of you. Switch hands. Keep noticing down below there's a shadow as the cloud moves across the sky. The upper hand is the cloud. Where the focus is, the lower hand is the shadow that never leaves the cloud, moves with it. Soft shoulders, soft wrists, open hands. Unfolding impermanence. Pausing, coming to stillness. Notice the aliveness in the body. And start a new section of movements, stepping forward, splashing in the sea, opening the hands and the arms, listening, turning, turning again, riding the waves. Effortless effort. Gliding forward, gliding back, turning. Just the right amount of effort. Tuning the string on the musical instrument just right. Turning. Palms up. Come forward, palms down. Effortless effort. Turning. Opening. And then coming back to the center. Pausing. Noticing the aliveness in the body when there's no movement. Stillness. Silence. But there's internal movement. Then we make a fist and sink. Let the dragon rise from the sea. Open the wings, go up into the sky with the cranes, up on the toes. And then turning a big wheel, smiling, releasing. Changing direction. harmonizing with all the arms around you. And back to the center. Lift one arm and one leg. And then slowing down, breathing in, releasing new energy in, and releasing tension, stress. And then just pausing, noticing in the stillness, there's a flow of sensation deep inside. Rhythmic breathing, noticing the fading away of the exhale. Each exhale making room for the next burst of new energy. Pardon me. And then sinking and opening the arms. We'll just come to a conclusion by gathering circles of energy here. And once more. Feeling gratitude for another opportunity to practice together. Thank you very much.
Good morning. Good to hear Robert's doing well, right? A little anxiety I've noticed in my days, wondering how he's doing, but it's nice to know that he's on track, so that's good. I have a few announcements. Avi's out today. I'm Gregory, for those who don't know me. I'm one of the Dharma teachers here and community manager. So I've got some housekeeping stuff. Let's see, I'll go down the list. This is a combination of several people's notes, so let me see if I can orient myself. Okay, let's do some basic calendar stuff. November 30th, another mindfulness hike is happening. You can go to the website for more details. That's with Vic and friends. December 1st, which is Sunday after Thanksgiving, that would be our new monthly orientation, if anyone has not been to that. And come to think of it, I guess I'll be leading that because Robert won't be back yet. I better make myself a note. So I'll be doing that on the 1st. Next, engaging the Dharma meeting also on the 1st. And that would be after the Dharma talk and the potluck. And then, let's see, we have our first Saturday retreat. If you have not been on one of those are awesome. It's going to be an all-day retreat on the 7th, every first Saturday of the month. A different teacher leads that day long, and Gary will be leading that one. And metta practice will be the focus. The 8th will be our potluck, and then Let's see. We do have another guest teacher. So December 14th, Frank Letter is coming. Has anyone seen Frank before? He comes once a year? Okay. So he's coming from Germany. It's a big trek. And I'd like to say a few things about signing up for those kinds of things. But he's going to be coming on the 14th of December. Now, the plan is that Robert will be joining him for that. But as we can see, we're just not quite sure what the recovery time is going to be. But in the announcement, Robert and Frank, we're going to do that together. Whether or not Robert is here at that point, the retreat will go on. Frank's still going to be coming. Robert's hope is that he'll be joining that retreat in some capacity too, so that will be nice to support, since that will be right when Robert's coming back for that retreat. We're going to have a family performance of Scrooge on the 21st, and Buddhist movie night on the 21st as well. So there's some basic stuff coming out. I wanted to talk about the digest. Anyone, a show of hands, those who've opened the digest as it's come through? Okay, great. So for the next few weeks, myself or Avi will be talking about what we're doing with communication. So our goal was to cut back on all of the emails that were going out. So we realized that people were getting numerous emails a week, and it was hard to decide what to open and what was important. So from now on, we are going to have a weekly digest, which will have a summary of what's coming up and what's important in the week, so you can just have that one email to open. When a new event is advertised, we will put a individual email out for that, but then you'll only see it in the digest after that point. So the digest is going to be your main place for communication. It's going to go out every Monday. If you're not on Constant Contact and you're just on the listserv, it's more difficult to open that up, because the listserv, which is our Google group, is really set up for interpersonal communication among students, for carpools and things like that, and roommate sharing, all that kind of social stuff. So please go to the website and click under the quick links and get on the Constant Contact so you can get our weekly digest. Let's see. Oh, so about sign up. So I just wanted to invite you to do us a favor if it is possible. So when we send out, another reason we're going to send out the digest is it's easier for us if we send out one information point. Then we know if people are opening that, then we know you've seen everything that's important. So it's really helpful if you at least open it and look at that top part, because that's really helpful for us. And the second thing is, if you see something in there that you know you are definitely going to sign up for, please sign up for it sooner than later. Part of the reason we've been sending out so many emails is that we're only getting signups about a week before some of our events. So we were under the impression that we were going to have to cancel them. So if you already know that something's coming up and you are definitely interested, it really helps us to know ahead of time to gauge how many people, and then we won't send out as many marketing pieces. So that can really help in that communication. It also helps for guest teachers, because guest teachers, we have about one a month. Guest teachers, of course, keep in touch over the month. And so they're calling me and asking how many people are signed up. And then sometimes, like a week before, there's only 2 people. And so it's hard for them to plan. And then 17 people will sign up 3 days before. And then, of course, it always works out. But it can be really helpful in communication. If you already know you're going to do it, if you could sign up sooner, that would be really helpful to us for the marketing and to let guest teachers know, yes, people are interested in what you have to offer. So it's just something as an act of generosity. If you already know, if you could do that, that'd be hugely helpful. The last thing is, IPSIA wanted me to announce that we could use a couple new volunteers for housekeeping in relationship to kitchen, keeping our kitchen up for our Sunday gatherings. If that lights up your heart, you can go to the website through the volunteer link and get in touch with IPSIA directly, or you can come to me after at the end today and give me your contact info, and I'll have her reach out. Thank you for coming, and we'll hand it back. Oh, yes, thank you. Would you like to say something about Donna?
I'm going to be the surrogate Donna speaker today. I'm Danny. It's just, as you look around this room, I come from a background of seeking donations, so this is about supporting. And there's actually some research that says that when you give, it releases pheromones, like chocolate or a good relationship. Am I selling this really well? And I know, and this is a little plug for Robert, I know it would be very heartening for him to hear in his absence, that there's great support for PIMC, all the activities you see here. How many of you make monthly donations? If you look around, you'll see some very happy, sexy people. You too can be like that if you make a monthly donation. I'm actually one of them too. Damn, it's really good. It feels really good. It's really a great way to sustain the organization, to give, $5 a month. It's, what is it, a cappuccino a week or something like that, or depending on where you're going, a cappuccino and a croissant. Jim always gets the croissant, right? No, okay. So it's a really a very affordable way. It's a great sustainable way. We are coming up on the end of the year, right? So we have some new expenses. We have people in the office that are helping out. We have some needs on the building that we'll talk more about later on. I'm on a committee that's helping to restore and do some work in the building, the ramp, that's all in the works. But the short answer is, as Robert says, when you say this is mine, you're holding it tight, and when you say this is yours, it's a release. So we're asking you to release, let go, and if you can share, and I know not everybody can, but to share within your ability of this wonderful place that we get so much peace from, so much release from. You can do this online. You can do this, actually, there's a little slider right here so you can come and do that. But give once, give twice, give till it feels right. But thank you.
All right, any other announcements?
Yeah, yesterday, or Friday, we did our brown bag present. We made 120 lunches for the Laurelwood. Oh, Laurelwood, there we go. Yeah, we did 120 lunches for Laurelwood. And I think there was about 15 of us that showed up. It was really fun. We had a good time. I'd never been to Laurelwood before, so about 5 of us showed up, and we went into the kitchen, and they were really happy that we showed up with this. There was a woman named Nancy who was sitting in the cafeteria. This was about 11 o'clock, and she smiled and said, "Thank you, God bless you for bringing us lunch." And so I stopped and talked to her, and she had the most beautiful smiling face. I asked her about her life. She's 69, and her husband is in an elderly home not too far away, and she gets there by bus when she can. She said her bones are too old to spend the winter outside, and she's very grateful to be in Laurelwood. I asked her how long they'll let her stay. She said they're helping her to find a place. And she said when she gets a couple of dollars together, she goes to the 7-Eleven next door and buys sandwiches for the friends that are in the park living outside the shelter. And she has one woman that she worries about who has just one red blanket, and she tries to get over to feed her as much as possible. And she said, we have to take care of each other. And she smiled at me and said, "God bless you, thank you for what you've done today." So I thought that was a great story. Thanks.
poem, Mary Oliver. The title of this poem is I Worried. I worried. I worried a lot. Will the garden grow? Will the rivers flow in the right direction? Will the earth turn as it was taught? And if not, how shall I correct it? Was I right? Was I wrong? Will I be forgiven? Can I do better? Will I ever be able to sing? Even the sparrows can do it. And I am, well, hopeless. Is my eyesight fading or am I just imagining it? Am I going to get rheumatism, lockjaw, dementia? Finally, I saw that worrying had come to nothing and gave it up and took my old body and went out into the morning and sang. I worried. I worried a lot. Will the garden grow? Will the rivers flow in the right direction? Will the earth turn as it was taught? And if not, how shall I correct it? Was I right? Was I wrong? Will I be forgiven? Can I do better? Will I ever be able to sing? Even the sparrows can do it. And I am, well, hopeless. Is my eyesight fading or am I just imagining it? Am I going to get rheumatism, lockjaw, dementia? Finally, I saw that worrying had come to nothing and gave it up and took my old body and went out into the morning and sang. Oh, thank you, Mary Oliver. Worrying, perfectionism, desire in attempt to, in vain, to control, to keep things tidy, to feel safe. It's a tendency, an exhausting one, because it's not the nature of things. But I remember calling Robert in a frenzy. The amount of students coming to my events was really growing, and some people wanted my picture. And I was freaking out, And I called Robert and said, no, this is too much. I'm concerned about two things. One, I'm fraud. I have my own mess. Who am I to be doing this? And then also the other flip side is I don't want it to go to my head. I don't want this to be an ego trip. And I always remember what he said to me. He was very kind and loving about it, of course, but he said, oh, don't worry, darling. You'll fall flat on your face and it'll be really good for you. That's what he told me. Thank you, Robert. That's what he told me. And he's right, we can be human. And the nature of that, this whole ride is, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, forget, remember, fall down, get back up. It's the quality with which we meet it, the undercurrent of ease, the equanimity. This idea of waiting for when we at last have it all together, when the ducks are all lined up. There'll be those moments in our lives, and perhaps more so as we do the inner work. But it shifts and changes. I can remember being in my car and the texting went off, and it was another thing, and it was a day where a lot of emails were coming in and responsibilities, and I was feeling stressed, and out loud I said, it never ends. And then I laughed out loud and I said, that's right, until you're dead. It's this idea of it's a notion of if I just clean my house good enough and get into the corners and really scrub it, that then you're never going to have to clean your house again. And that's just not the nature of things, right? And so then, of course, we can participate more fully and joyfully in the cleaning of the house or the tending to the details of our lives without this idea that if I just get it good enough, I'll never have to do this again, or thinking only until this is perfect I can make room for the other things in my life: self-care, joy, connection, play. Making room for the mess. And it's sometimes the other flip side of that is like, because the mess feels like too much, we keep sweeping it under the rug. So there's a tendency to hyper-attending, have to keep it tidy all the time, or I don't even want to deal with it, sweep it under the rug, sweep it under the rug. These are extremes, right? So if we keep sweeping the little messes, and by mess, we can talk about our own internal stuff or tensions with another. If we repress the little messes enough, then when we finally have to attend to it, it's a big mess, right? So this ability to meet what is arising with kindness, awareness, acceptance, that allows for, and I spoke about this yesterday, that full meeting allows for right understanding, right, wise understanding. And with wise and greater understanding, there's much more likelihood for wise action. We can attend to it. And then, life has little messes. It's just in nature, and moments of joy and clarity and everything in between. But it's more like this. I'm meeting the little messes and attending to them, as opposed to either hyper clinging or denying. And then it's more like this. The extremes are more likely. Is this making sense? Okay. And so all tied up in this is the willingness to let go of perfectionism and control. And we often find safety there, but also with that comes isolation and a decreased ability to move into intimacy and connection with ourselves and with other. So it speaks to the willingness to be vulnerable, to expose our mess a little more. And of course, we begin within, as they say. How much are we hiding from that ourselves? So for me personally, and I have to imagine a lot of you can relate, that ability to rest more comfortably and honestly in all my parts, that willingness to be vulnerable with myself, quite naturally, it increases my ability to do that with other. And then it gets really real. That's when real connection can happen. I think that's part of, not the only thing, but the joy of holding a newborn child. Holding a newborn child, they're not armoring. And so there's something that feels really safe and beautiful and expansive in that place. But we can meet each other as newborn children with that freshness. And there are times in life where armor is understandable and appropriate to, monitor a little more. But what happens often is we do that so much that we forget we even have the armor on. And then we're just living our lives that way. So this is where the quality of awareness is very helpful, because if you know you're armoring a bit, then you also know you have it on, and as soon as you don't need it, you can take it off. And I mentioned this yesterday. As we also continue this work, you might be surprised, you have the awareness you have the armor on, and I need it here, but you might be surprised at the places you don't need it anymore. There might be new territory where you thought, I definitely need armor here, where in fact you don't. I used to say it's about learning how to be comfortable in your own I used to say it's about learning how to be comfortable in your own skin. But I think it's more like learning how to be comfortable in the fact that we're never totally comfortable in our skin. I mean, as Ram Dass would refer to it as a consciousness suit, right? So we have all this expansive energy. We are universe expressing itself, and I have my suit and you have yours. So by its very nature, it's a little uncomfortable, So, but can I be comfortable with the discomfort, which of course is so integral to the work we do here, is learning to find ease with that which wouldn't necessarily be our preference all the time, you know. And that takes courage, to not bolt on that, to somehow try to numb that discomfort, you know. So comfortable with what isn't always comfortable is a great life skill. And part of that is not always reaching for something to fix it. And that kind of brings us into the territory of habit and addiction and all of that, you know. So there are certain go-tos that maybe in our own life and who we are, that the wise answer is, I'm moving towards never. That should never be a go-to for me. But for some, maybe it's just about changing the relationship. You know, the example I like to use, it's personal, is chocolate. You know, when I'm eating the chocolate, what is the dialogue with the chocolate if I'm really honest? Am I saying, I'm bored, make it better? I'm sad and lonely, make me feel happier? You know, let me really say. And then we can pause in that space and say, is this my best option? You know, maybe I could call a friend. You know, so when I'm seeking something from other, be it a person, a food, an object, whatever, to make me feel fulfilled, the sad irony there is I actually will enjoy it a little less, because there's the divide of do it for me, you know. But if I come to that chocolate as a fully satiated, fulfilled being, then that divide goes away. It's kind of a tantric union with chocolate, actually. Because then it's just, I'm so available, right? The mirror is clean. It's like, whoa, chocolate. Wow. And what I find is when I come to it from that place, I don't need as much of it either. No, because I'm not missing it. Because part of missing it is that mind who's saying, I want something from you. And that's also that need to like keep things in control. Like, it's exhausting. I have to have things a certain way to feel okay. Or how can I make sure I stay in the realm of pleasant, not unpleasant or neutral all the time, so that I feel okay. And I think that's how many of us are operating a lot of the time. But the blessing and the curse of this great work is that we start to notice we're operating that way. And the pain of behaving that way becomes obvious enough that we just can't get away with it anymore. So I quoted Ruth yesterday, but I will again, this quote, she said, oh, darling, the deeper you go, you just can't get away with yourself anymore. You know, we can't kid ourselves. That's also the beauty of Sangha and teacher, to lovingly kind of reveal that, expose that. Is this making sense, helpful? Because I can redirect. Okay. Check on the time. It's a great gift to share your vulnerability with someone. I feel like Robert is such a teacher in that, among many other things. But, you know, when we're willing to do that with another, they feel more willing to do the same. And part of that also is letting go of agenda. It's somewhat selfish of me to choose this as my Dharma talk, because it helps me relax with all of you. Yeah, it's like my beloved teacher's meditation center, like being recorded and videoed. I was like, oh God, what if I mess up? What if they don't like me? It's possible, yeah. But see, like just that, just there, it's being human together, sharing our humanness, our vulnerability. But then what does that mean about aspiration, right? So is there still room here to notice that there's like things we'd like to improve upon? I'd say yes. But there are disciplines rooted in love. which I would say are sustainable and can create long-term positive change. And then there are disciplines that are rooted in, I have to make this change in order to be lovable. You catch that very big difference, right? There are disciplines rooted in love, which is more just like, I want to do this for myself. It might be hard, but it's like a loving kick in the butt. For me, it's like getting to the gym because I feel better physically and emotionally when I go. But sometimes, I need a little... But it's not because I have to go there to be good enough. It's that I love you, Paige, and this makes you feel better, so come on, right? But a discipline that's rooted in, I have to do this, otherwise I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable. In my experience, it burns out. Because some part of your being, I would say wisely, bolts on it because it's too aggressive. It's violent. There's too much pressure around that. So the love has to come first and stay throughout. And this quality of I love you no matter what isn't the same as complacency. In fact, I would say that level of love would not at all result in complacency. I work with a woman who's over 100 pounds overweight, and I have suggested to her that she practice this profound self-love. And she said, if I did that, I'd gain 100 more. And I told her, I don't believe you. I said, that's an immature love. And if we think of being with a child, right? Or I'll use the example of my niece, my dear niece, who's older now, but it worked when she was younger. Zoe is her name. Zoe's a pretty sensitive little being, and she would come home from a full day of school and was kind of overstimulated, So guess what she wanted to do when she came home from school? Any guesses? TV. She wanted to watch TV, yeah. All of those cuddles, sweet, yeah. She wanted to watch some TV. And my sister kind of monitors that. There's certain shows. So she does eat too. She would give Zoe a snack and watch 2 20-minute shows that my sister would select back to back. What do you think Zoe wanted to do when they were over? More. I get it when I get into a Netflix series. It's like bingey, But my sister says, Zoe, it's a sunshine. She lives in Colorado, so it's always sunny. Well, pretty much. Let's turn off the TV and go out in the back on the swings and shift gears. And she would pout a little and cry. But my sister would lovingly but firmly set that boundary and set her out. And of course, within not too long, Zoe would feel healthier. And in general, it was supporting a healthy childhood. Right? But what was fueling that for my sister was love. I mean, sometimes when the kid is screaming on my sister's end, it'd just be easier to let her keep watching TV, But same with ourselves, right? It's like we have to rally a bit to create healthy habits, let go of ones that aren't serving, but let the motivator be love. And then some days we'll do it. We'll be like, oh my God, all these hours pass and I've just been sitting here eating chips, watching Netflix, So the process is an ebb and flow. But the extreme on that one is, forget it, I suck, I'm just going to keep doing this. Right? Anyone know that one? Yeah. Or it could be like, okay, as Robert would say to me, it's never in vain, as I'm sure you've said it to many of you, it's never in vain if we learn something from it. So it's, okay, what have I learned from this? And for me, it's like I've learned that I have that tendency, it's very understandable, but actually when I do too much of this, I feel worse for it. And rather than punish myself for that, it's like hand on the heart that says, okay, noted. The next time this tendency arises, which it likely will, let me remember this moment and do it otherwise. But this is a discipline rooted in love that takes time and patience. So expect to fall. Imagine if you were teaching a child to ride a bike and the first time they fell, you said, well, forget it. Can we bring that kind of kindness to ourselves? And this comes back to letting go of perfectionism. Perfectionism has a real all or nothing mentality to it. And I think it was Jack Kornfield who said, if you're going to perfect anything, perfect compassion. Work on that. And if we were going to get it just right for everything to be okay, we would have been there by now. So we can notice what choices we make in our life that make things more harmonious more of the time and support that, certainly. But how are we when it isn't just right? And when we sit in our formal practice, we get to strengthen that ability because we can work with the small opportunities, right? So maybe the back hurts a little, or the mind is a little racy. Can we note it lovingly and come back, body, breath, just this moment? We can practice. A great place to practice with the small opportunities is in your car. It's so funny. Sometimes it's like, why is this guy driving so fast? And moments later, I'm like, why is this guy driving so slow? It's like, how do they think I'm driving? And then I'll hear myself say out loud, like, really? Really? That's what you're going to do? And then I laugh and say, yeah, that's what he's going to do. What are you going to do? So it's like, it's in my control there. With mindfulness, we have a choice. But this is an example of working with the small opportunities that come up every day of things not going quite how we like it. And I did mention this yesterday, if we just kind of nod our heads and like the sound of this, but wait for the big whammy, like we get a phone call that the love of our life just dropped dead, right? Or we learn of a terminal illness in ourselves, and then we think, now I'm going to apply that. Good luck. Oh, not the easiest. So we practice. And the practice has immediate benefit in our life, just in the day-to-day, but it also supports us in handling the biggies with grace, and like Robert's beautiful, transparent, as he so is, letter this morning, also handle with grace when, wow, look, I lost the mindfulness. And when we can gracefully notice that, we will more rapidly and gracefully return to it as well. This desire to keep things tidy on many levels. As I've mentioned, I find it to be isolating and exhausting, and decreases ability for genuine connection. So I like to really notice what helps me move away from that. So certainly my meditation and yoga practice does that, but also for me, remembering impermanence. It's like, how am I using my time here? Why am I taking myself this seriously? Also for me, service, caring for another being, getting out of my own head. It's like, how much do I care what my hair looks like when I'm sitting here before this person with their needs, getting out of that. And for me, also connecting with nature, that bigger perspective. Dancing is a big one for me, music. So I invite you to notice what helps you connect with the bigger picture, which inevitably helps us get a little less rigid with the story of self, and to prioritize that in your life, to recognize its importance. Yeah, those moments in our life that might be hard, but they can also shake us up out of our bullshit, Ram Dass tells a story of coming, I'm sure some of you have heard this, some of you might have been there, coming to give a talk. There were, maybe 200 people, big group. There's like a balcony, and he said on his way, he was uptight about something or other. And of course, it's like at the moment it seems like the most important thing, and then you can't even recall what you were so uptight about. It's a good insight, isn't it? Check on the time here. Okay. So he said, he's about to go out onto the stage, and he could tell he was sort of like overly polished. It was like he was just going to like do his thing, And he got like 3 minutes into it, and someone, he said, from up in the right part of the balcony yelled out, "Ram Dass, my heart hurts." And Ram Dass said, this is a direct quote, "That cut through my bullshit so fast." It's like it's like connecting with the world around us and seeing how we might be able to help can really get us out of our own story. Let's just pause for a moment. Thank you. That helps too. Always available. Yeah. I remember years ago being on a retreat with Robert. I'm sure some of you were there. He said, if I could have a wish come true, I'd like it if, I thought, you're crazy, but I'd like it if everyone was walking around with bubbles above their head and it said their most deep inner thoughts. And I thought, good God, And then he said, we would bow down in compassion to each other. Our tendency is to compare our darkest side with someone's brightest. But if we can meet one another, not just with our messy stuff, but with our radiance too, then we're supporting each other. We're in this soup together, as Robert says. So the work is for me, for you, for each of us to hold space for all of it. And it's been said, I feel very wisely, awareness has room for all of it. There's nothing awareness can't hold. It's like the divine arms of the mother. And then there's room for all of it, but we choose which ones will nurture. In fact, we're more likely, if we're repressing something, for that to sneak out the back door in some sort of passive-aggressive or damaging way, because it needs to be heard, right? But if I can hold space for all of it, and that means letting go of perfectionism, trying to release myself from shame, then I can acknowledge what's there, see which ones would be wise to follow or nurture, and the other ones that I can bow to, thank you, human again, I see you, but not wise to nurture you. But the full surrender and love has to come first, to be willing to admit what's there. And so these tools of mindfulness, equanimity, loving kindness, very, very helpful in strengthening this ability on the path of life, the art of living. So that's part of my journey, the work and what I'm learning, and then I share from what I find and hope that it helps in whatever way it might. There's another poem I'd like to read. It's a poem by Ellen Bass. I really like this one, so let me just find it here. Oh, I already put it out. I know that Robert really likes Ellen Bass, so perhaps, I haven't heard him read this one, but he may have. This one is titled Lost Dog. It's just getting dark, fog drifting in, damp grasses fragrant with anise and mint. And though I call his name until my voice cracks, there's no faint tinkling of tag against collar, no sleek black silhouette with tall ears rushing toward me through wild radish. As it turns out, he's trotted home, tracing the route of his trusty urine. Now he sprawls on the deep red rug, not dead, not stolen by a car on West Cliff Drive. Every time I look at him, the wide head resting on outstretched paws, joy does another lap around the racetrack of my heart. Even in sleep, when I turn over to ease my bad hip, I'm suffused with contentment. If I could lose him like this every day, I'd be the happiest woman alive. One day she will, unless she dies first. She'll lose him. Or he'll lose her, right? As I trust, we all know with increasing depth, that's the truth of things. So it's good to remember, not for doom and gloom or enhanced anxiety, but to noticing, where am I putting my energy? How am I using my life? I read a story about a woman who was fairly obsessed with the size of her thighs. And then she was diagnosed with cancer. And it turns out a month later it was a false diagnosis, which was a relief. But she said, I realized for that month I stopped thinking about my thighs. Please don't wait for the terminal diagnosis, you know. It's like, this is it. This is it. So coming together in this way and hearing the words out loud and resonating, you know, we do the things that help us remember what ultimately we already know. You know, when they say the Dharma is given with enough skill, it's received as just a reminder of what we already know. So I hope some of this reminds you what you already know. I really like the part when I get to hear from some of you. So maybe some time for questions or sharings or anything at all. Okay, let me turn this one off.
Hi, I'm Dave, and I just wanted to offer some gratitude in the way you talked about chocolate, and the idea of asking it, what am I trying to get out of this? It's an avenue I hadn't really looked at before, and I really appreciated that.
Hi, I'm Michael. I don't know your name or who you are, or I didn't know who you, whatever.
My name is Paige.
Oh, hi,
Cogger.
Paige.
Hi, Michael. Yeah.
The universe has kind of been working that way for me lately. Sometimes pleasantly, sometimes not. But thanks for your talk. I really, really liked it a lot. Something came to me recently, to talk with a teacher, whatever, kind of about strength, and I don't know how that shows up, how to express that. And what came out of that was that a place of vulnerability is where I really find my strength, because that's where I have the clearest connection to my center of love, and there's no armoring in the way, which is kind of counterintuitive at times. But yeah, that, for me, that tied in with a lot of what you were saying, so thank you.
You know, it takes a lot of guts to be vulnerable. Yeah, that willingness is very courageous. And then also within that, as you say so beautifully, there's strength in connecting with that level of love. So I really appreciate what you had to say. Thanks.
Thanks for the meditation on perfectionism. I'm one of those. It feels like you're gonna get it right someday. So, do you, besides from the reminder that which I liked, that if I could have gotten it perfect by now, I would have. That was good. Any other specific practices or things that you would just recommend for that specific kind of armoring around perfectionism and control?
Thank you for the question and the sharing. it's really good to spend time with children. Yeah, and also for me, it's helpful to push myself a little and put myself into somewhat new environments and feel a little like silly and awkward and feel silly and awkward and do it anyhow, which takes courage, right? So intentionally putting myself, not in harm's way, certainly not, and we have to know like, is this a day for it or is it feeling like too much? But to push the envelope a bit and consciously put ourselves in situations that feel like new territory to strengthen that ability to not be the best one in the room. I think that helps a lot, yeah. And service, as I mentioned, serving others and spending time around children and people who are near death can really help me in terms of getting over my need to be so polished. I hope that's helpful. Yeah.
Thank you for your talk, Paige. I'm Michael, and I'm sure we all have our favorite hindrances. Mine happens to be worry, irritation, and agitation. And so that Mary Oliver poem, which you started off with, was really impactful for me. I really hadn't made such a strong connection between, I guess, my perfectionism tendencies and the restlessness, worry, agitation, which I so clearly notice in meditation. So that was really very helpful for me, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
You know, I always try to teach from what's active for me in my own life because it just makes the teaching more alive, I think. And so I can really empathize with the connection between those two things because I feel that that's a tendency for the story of Paige as well. But it's much more easeful now, so I'm with you. Yeah. There was someone over here, yeah.
I was going to talk real quick. Hi, thanks for the Dharma talk. It was really resonating with me. And as far as impermanence, and Buddha says impermanence is the only thing that's real. And when we perceive, like I was watching this thing on Netflix yesterday, it was about these huge events and people are, like let's say the Kentucky Derby or Best in Show, all these people, all their lives they're striving to win. And they love, and winning's great because, it builds our confidence, and the more things we accomplish, we are more prepared. But when we lose, and that is definitely, a part of that. So the strive for perfection, we're never going to attain it. What we can attain is that baseline, of, the gradual ups and downs and ebbs and flows rather than the peaks and valleys. And so, your talk really resonated with me because we strive so hard to put up these this armor and to, show like everything's perfect on the outside, but really we're sometimes, hurting and starving for love. And to be vulnerable is beautiful. And to be vulnerable is also, I think, contagious because if everybody was more, vulnerable, I think it would allow more space to be okay to be naked, So I think that really resonated with me, and it's, as far as my life, it, definitely rang true of what I'm going through in my relationship and, and with the world and myself, career, everything. So thank you.
Hi, Paige. I'm Virginia. Thank you for the poems that you chose. Wonderful, touching. And you talked about making decisions based on self-love, that can be a good mindset, to kind of look at the things that you make decisions about. And you mentioned briefly, shame. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I see in myself, but also in loved ones, that shame and self-love are really, it's challenging. Can you talk a little bit about that?
trying to remember what I spoke about with shame, but I think it was something to the effect of, the deeper we go, this willingness to feel all of it will allow us to see clearly and then choose which ones will nourish. And then the very human emotions or thoughts that perhaps if acted out would cause harm, we can bow to without this quality of aggression or shame, and still choose to nourish the ones that would serve. But if shame is strong enough, it might be so strong that it's only on the deepest level we're even aware of this certain emotion is happening because we're too shameful about it. So the more we can be fiercely but kindly honest about everything that's happening, and then real change happens when we can voice it out loud in front of people we trust, without being pigeonholed by that. Then I'm not a slave to it anymore. Love is making room for all of it, and shame does not make room for all of it. So it's a practice, and for me, it really helps to have the model of mother to child. How would I be if a dear friend or beloved came with the part they felt ashamed of? Or can I make room for it without enabling it? And also, what sucks is like you're having a hard day and then you feel pigeonholed by that. You're identified like you were the sad one in the group. That was a moment, right? So the practice of replacing shame with love, but that's not enabling. Is that helpful? Or is there more?
Thank you. It's, the mother-child.
Another one that helps me is speaking of myself in third person. When I was little, my family would sometimes call me Paige, and I'd say, "Oh, look at Paige, she's so irritable." But it gives it some space. It's like, okay, irritability, and I've admitted that I'm irritable. So when I walk into the store, there's this intention of, I'll often say, this is not repression. It's, there's irritability, and I say, I'm going to be really nice in there. I'll do this, and I am, and I come out and I feel better for it, and guess what? I'm a little less irritable. But it's not the same as I'm bad because I'm irritable. Right. So talking about myself in third person also helps with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah.
My name is Matt. Thank you, Paige, for being here today. I feel like I should be part of the fundraising committee because I just want to say that it seems like everything, the things I go through in my life, every Sunday I come here, it addresses something of that. And it's always a lesson to take away and use. And I really appreciate that about you and PIMC and everyone in it that shares. Thank you.
Oh, you need to wind it up? I just wanted to say thank you so much for being here. The poems. I lost my dog once. And then she came back and touched me. I just wanted to mention, just because it's on my mind, and we're talking about love, that I just saw this very powerful movie called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, which is just amazing about love. I like you just the way you are. Can we have that feeling about ourselves? And a truly compassionate character that talks about, and it's about forgiveness as well. It's very powerful in terms of many Buddhist ideas, and him being ahead of his time in terms of that idea of love and compassion, no matter what's going on. So Mr. Rogers is in my heart today.
I second that. I've seen it, and I highly recommend it as well. So thank you for the encouragement. And we have time for one more, if there's anyone.
I have one tool on my perfection thing is I have an image of when I was a kid, my mom had this perfect Christmas tree, and us kids had the little one in the basement. I mean, it was really anal, and it was all pink and just perfect. And I, as a grown-up, I did the same thing with my family. And all of a sudden, one Christmas, my son and my husband said, "We're not helping you. You just, it's not fun. And I went, oh my God, that's where it ended. They never helped me again, and I was by myself every Christmas doing the tree. So whenever I'm in the kitchen now with my husband and he's using the wrong tool to do egg whites, I go, okay, that's okay. He can do that. He can use an egg beater and beat for hours if he wants to. It's just like I shut my mouth, and it's cool. It's really cool. So.
It's always so nice to get to hear from some of you. It increases my feeling of connection. I appreciate that. I know in a few minutes we'll transition to a more social time in our morning/afternoon. And I invite you to just see about meeting one another in a little more of your truth and without agenda. And then who knows what can happen in those kind of meetings. Letting go of needing to be somebody or prove something. That's when it gets really good. So why don't we sit together quietly for just a few minutes and then we'll transition, okay? Let's take a big inhale and just exhale with a sigh. Inhaling. Again. And let's This is one more time. Ah. Thank you so much for your kind and generous presence. Just briefly take a moment to honor Ruth Dennison. Such gratitude and deep, deep gratitude and love for Robert Beatty. May his healing be quick and as easeful as possible. Thank you.
So reach out and find a hand to hold. We got more pillows than chillins here. Okay. So this is the time when we look inside and see what kind of wish we would like to give everybody else. Think of your friends from the other room, and then think of all the friends here. What kind of wish would you wish for them? Why don't we reach out and hold hands? And holding this wish for everyone, we probably have some singers here that want to sing us into. Okay. These two? Three. Okay, there we go. One. Is it on? I did something wrong. That's better. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you. Very nice, very nice. And now, without getting too close to the flame, we'll imagine that wish for all the people around us, sending good wishes out, and when we blow it out, it'll just permeate the whole room, okay? You ready?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. Okay. So So you're invited to come back into the living room and have some social time with our friends here. And we'll see you next time. Thank you very much.
You have a nice Thanksgiving. Yeah.